Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. This is me, Daniel Hutchins. We're back again. Yes, we're back again. It's about 10:43 out here in the mountains, cause we live out here in the Albuquerque. Alright, so we were just catching up with Brother Enders, and he was flooding my phone with Elmo Jeffs. But not to worry. It's just normal tactical thing that me and him do for time and times again, because sometimes we ride on the same idea frequency waves, hanging out there with the surfers of the real deal. See, now when we pull up something, yeah, when we pull up something, we're gonna pull up some information off of comicbook.com. See, okay, there are three Disney live action remakes that are actually great. We're gonna not waste too much time on it, and this is no particular order, and we're not wasting too much time. Three live action Disney reboots, uh, three live action Disney reboots that are actually great. Not trying to spend too much time on this because, well, we've already done this several times before, and we've even did specials of this same kind of shit back in the times when these releases happened. Okay, so coming up on number three, Beauty and the Beast. Obviously, we know Princess Belle. I have a little toy of her on my bookcase right now, and obviously, she's the crown jewel of the real deal. She's got the yellow ball gown dress, and she's looking most fine. So fine that you always wish that you thought she was yours. But she's already taken. So sorry guys, you missed it. And basically, the character Dolph is just so fulfillable. So the next one is the Jungle Book, the live action Jungle Book. It's actually fucking amazing. It's got excellent box office showcases, and it's one of those live action remakes that oftentimes gets overshadowed because, well, it's been said that legend has it. Sometimes the Jungle Book tends to be the one smash hit that, unless you don't understand the chemistry of a boy and a bear, then, well, I don't know what else to tell you. Unless you watch the animated one that happened all the way back in the late 60s or whatever. But yeah, that's been justified. So, next on the list is Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin, well, what's going on with Christopher Robin? Well, this is a live action retell of what happens when Christopher Robin grows up, and then he realizes, oh, people said, why does this movie happen? Well, it's basically to show you the bridge between how he grew up and then he was able to realize that, hey, sometimes with Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and all the rest of the gang down in them 100-acre woods, you realize that, again, there's more than meets the eye. It's not just a Winnie Pooh slasher franchise. This is the real deal. This is the reason why arguments seem to say that Christopher Robin is one of those live action remakes that tells a story about how the boy who was in the yellow shirt and the socks and likes to go on expeditions with, all the friends like Pooh and Tigger and Piglet and Rabbit and Eeyore. I lost my tail again. I lost my tail again. But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's basically been censored and justified. So the reason why that has been undoubtedly been one of the better of the live action baits is, well, mostly because it's different than your standard animated Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Because with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, reminder that came out in 2011. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh had took place in 2011. though lots of people are stupid enough to believe it came out a lot earlier than 2011. But again, I was reminded by that by one of my closest friends from school. He's like, oh yeah, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Well, that happened in the 2010s era. It's like, why did they wait that long to make the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh? Well, again, because when Winnie the Pooh had entered the public domain, lots of people said, hey, well, why is it taking them this long to realize and recognize that even a bear who's stuffed with fluff and is yellow and wears a red shirt, yeah, people like Winnie the Pooh, he's a silly little bear. Yeah, he's a silly little bear. Yeah, he is. But he's not so little anymore because, again, he's very old. As A.A. Milne had intended, that's why Winnie the Pooh is synonymous amongst most classic Disney enthusiasts. Okay, so what is some other stuff that's going on with the universe? Okay, so Chris Evans has returned and has confirmed he's returning for the Secret Wars. We already know this because we briefly mentioned this last season at the Hutchins Hut. Yes, Chris Evans is coming back for Doomsday and the follow-up Secret Wars. We already know this because we briefly mentioned it last year. Now, if you don't know what's going on with Avengers 5 or 6, go back and watch the 2025 season of the Hutchins Hut. I told you guys this a couple of times last year. Now, if you have the failure to not understand why I talked about it, well, go on comicbook.com and read that yourself, or just go and watch interviews of it on comicbook.com under video. So, how exactly does Chris Evans spill the bean about the Steve Rogers fate? Well, let me remind you in case your name is stupid. Okay, so what happened was after Captain America had returned all the stones to the proper timelines, he returned back to the past and lived as an old man to get that final dance with Peggy Carter. But then he returns to the present, as we saw in Endgame in that post credit, where he gave Sam Wilson the shield. He's like, hey, you want the shield? And then Sam's like, doesn't this belong in the museum? And then Steve's like, you want the shield or no? And then Sam's like, okay. And then and then Steve's like, my man, you remember, I could just give the shield to Bucky, but again, I know that you would carry the shield a lot more better than he could. Well, my friend Bucky, he can be a little bit of a chaotic nutcase sometimes, but he is still my best friend from World War II. So there's always that to also built into mine as well. Because Steve Rogers always has his two best friends, Bucky and Sam, as we literally saw that displayed last year from the Captain America, The Brave New World, which was originally named New World Order, but because of stupid people who were jealous, they changed the name at the last moment, and the movie flopped in the theater. And then you had Thunderbolts, which is a bad movie, but it had a really good storyline, where it basically had Bucky, centerfold, and then he came in and took in all the Thunderbolts and questioned them, and now he's, the de facto leader who took over when Valentina de Fortain decided that they couldn't use them anymore. But that's also what happened, well, around this same time of last year. Thunderbolts was believed to be when Kang Dynasty was supposed to happen, but because of when they found out and did background checks on John Majors, they're like, oh no, he had a bad time with the whole Lovecraft Country thing he used to do on back when he was still, on that series. But hence, that's the reason why Lovecraft Country is not on HBO Max anymore. You have to go and watch it on Tubi. But anyway, like we said, you can't undo this timeline because now it's like, oh, well, all the original Avengers, or, well, the ones that have survived, are coming back. And people are like, why are they coming back? Well, again, it's to fill in the gap and fill in the holes for what's going on with this whole multiverse shit. And because you have all this multiverse shit, you have to wrap it all up anyway. Because again, now after acquiring the Netflix hero dossier and the X-Men and Fantastic Four back into the folds, after Disney finally got the property purchases back of 20th Century Fox, hence why we have Deadpool Wolverine as one of the best new superhero staples of the decade of 2020, you realize that, hey, even if it's a movie that's not directly tied to Marvel, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But you also know James Gunn, he's trying to build up his universe now over with DC Studios now. And we also have direct competition this summer. We have Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow. And then next summer, after Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is this summer. And then next summer is the Man of Tomorrow. So you have Woman of Tomorrow this summer. And then next summer is Man of Tomorrow, which also is going to be kind of cool because it's going to catch us up on what happened after the post credits of season 2 and ties directly to what happened in Peacemaker. Because Peacemaker and the Justice Gang and Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl Elizabeth Merced and all the rest of the characters we saw from Superman with David Corenswet and Lois Lane played by the beautiful Rachel Brosnan, you realize that sometimes it takes a lot of energy and a lot of spirit and a lot of spunk just to make sure that you have the perfectly executed Superman story. Though lots of people didn't want to watch Superman last year because it tied in with the Middle East conflict, which we already know is a bunch of Bo-Katan mix because right now the Middle East conflict with the oil prices going high and the president of the country is still going after them and saying, hey, we don't like what you're doing. But yet he still wants to fuck everything up internationally anyway. But it doesn't come as a shocker to anybody because, again, it's been since been justified as so. So, what is the next update we got to let you know on? The next update we need to let you know on is the new trailer that had came out this morning for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spider-Man's Brand New Day has now confirmed every villain. Every villain that has been confirmed. Well, we already had talked a little bit about how Jean Grey is, a mystery character, question mark, that's been added to the story. And Sadie Sink has already confirmed she's going to be part of later roles as well in the MCU. On top of this, we are not really technically sure whether or not we're going to have the Punisher or the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, his contract's going to run out. So now or never. Again, because, the Hulk is, he's been having too much time on his hand. Okay, so these are the villains that we were rumored to see in the new Spider-Man movie. This is rumored supervillains. These are all supervillains that are rumored to happen or are seen to almost more than likely or rumored to happen in the new Spider-Man film. The first on the list is Tarantula. Tarantula is basically like a comic book Spider-Man ripoff that I used to read in the Marvel Masterworks of the Amazing Spider-Man books, but I don't have them in my possessions right now. They're up in my storage at my mom's house. And then we also have Boomerang. Boomerang is another super villain that also is in storage at my mom's house. Also, we have the Hand. Again, another villain at my mom's house. Tombstone. Again, same thing. At my mom's house. And Scorpion. Again, another villain that's in the Mason Spider-Man vaults at my mom's house. I know, it's like, why do I have all my books at my mom's house? Well, again, because, I had to move out here and I kind of had, follow my dream and my destiny. And I already know who these villains are because, again, I used to study them on a day to day basis. That was until I realized that, hey, I needed to move on and get out of my mom's house so that I don't, be an ultimate bum. But now I'm being the ultimate bum with my sister and my brother in law. But they are taking care of me better than my mom ever did. But it's been since been justified that even though I could be a little complicated dick sometimes, I still hold the line anyways because that's what brothers do. I can be a little bit of a frustration sometimes, but hey, it's been since been justified. So that's why I'm out here trying to put the grind into UNM. Okay, now Marvel is now killing off one of Spider-Man's most hated characters in the comic books, Carnage. They are now killing off Carnage. Again, they're killing off Carnage. And honestly, it's kind of stupid, honestly, because, well, Maximum Carnage is a story that we oftentimes look back at in the 90s run and also in the later 2010s runs. You're kind of wondering, like, oh, why is Carnage not appreciated as much in the Spider Man Rogues Gallery? Well, if you want to know more information about that, go and watch Let There Be Carnage, the Venom sequel. I'm pretty sure you could watch it on Hulu. And then, as far as Venom the Last Dance, Venom the Last Dance, the one where we had the King in Black. Venom the Last Dance, you could watch The Last Dance Venom on Netflix. But the other two Venoms, both Venom 2018 and Venom Let There Be Carnage, you can watch those on Hulu, which is technically Disney Plus and Hulu because they merged way back in the merger of 2023. So, yeah. Okay. Now we're just gonna breeze through and do one more thing for you. 7 of the biggest mistakes that almost ruined the X-Men. This is the 7 big mistakes that almost killed the X-Men. More specifically from the 2010s decade. Now, ahead of the curve, as we know, back in 2010, there were some really close calls where they almost killed the X-Men franchise. Most of them were some of the worst decisions ever. This is no particular order, and this is all just randomized. Okay, first on the list is the slander of Cyclops. Cyclops has been one of the most hated characters, though he's oftentimes a leader who oftentimes can be a little bit of a dickhead. But hey, it's been justified so many times, even from the films and through X Men 97. Which, X Men 97? Oh, we're going to be getting that in the summer. Well, obviously, because, right now we are basically in Daredevil territory right now. So we got Daredevil right now. And then after Daredevil, we have a bunch of other things we're going to also do later recap of later in the months that are yet to come. You guys might be wondering, why am I not watching Daredevil right now? And I'll tell you why I'm not watching Daredevil right now, because I have a lot of other information that also needs to be caught up as well, in addition to the fact that we have Daredevil in the sights too. The other thing that almost killed the X-Men was the Astonishing X-Men Volume 4, issues 1 to 12. What was so bad about the Astonishing X-Men Volume 4 from 1 to 12? Well, these were the first 3 volumes, however, that the 2017 arc of the Astonishing X-Men Volume 4, 1 through 12, This was believed to be one of the very, very, very terrible X-Men series, one of the worst X-Men series ever to exist. This was written by an artist named Charles Soule. All the issues of this particular arc are nothing but terrible Bo-Katan, which basically means there's nothing good from this, and it is basically why Charles Soule is fired from Marvel Comics, because his Astonishing X-Men run from 2017 was oftentimes known as the worst X-Men series that's ever been dated in the 21st century. It's so bad that even when they resurrected Charles Xavier, it does nothing but a big giant story jump mess. So then they kind of treat the whole idea and tried to cover it up and realize, hey, it's still out there. So, you can't cover up something if it's already done. Now you have the Age of X-Men. The Age of X-Men. Now, this is a really terrible series from the 2019. 2019 was almost the year where X-Men finally got back on the track. However, the Age of X-Men, well, again, let me get there first. So, in the late year of 2018, the one year that we always hate because, we lost a lot of famous people that year, including my father and the Marvel architect himself. Um, Age of X-Men. This is one of the very worst X-Men stories ever to be conceived of. This was a story where they go back all the way back to the Apocalypse era, the Age of Apocalypse, and basically they created a whole new universe around the mutant race. There were no A-listed characters, and there was nothing memorable about this series at all. It was so much of a disaster and so much of a fucking Bo-Katan mess that the placeholder in the houses of X and powers of X, and the fans oftentimes have little to no about any of this because that's how bad the series is. The other thing that also sucked is the death of Wolverine. The death of Wolverine was such a terrible series that, again, though this series was initially launched in 2014, it also did away, but again, this was also done by Charles Soule, and it feels like another way to attack the X-Men, despite the fact it just really just sucks. Because, hey, I'm not saying it sucks, it just does suck. I'm pretty sure that 90% of the audience who's going to watch this video later can also agree with me as well. Now, if you still don't believe me, go to comicbook.com and read for yourself. But I'm telling you, the facts do not lie here at Hutchins Hut. The fact checkers do not lie here at Hutchins Hut. We make sure that we have the real deal facts. And then bring in the original 5 X-Men to the present. They were the X-Men First Class. Bringing this back is terrible. And yeah, it basically was unnecessary, and quite obviously, it was a rookie mistake on all X-Men fronts. And then the worst of the worst, pushing in the Inhumans. The Inhumans. The Inhumans tried to push back in 2013 in a series called uh, Infinity and New Avengers. This is basically a volume where, however, this takes place on a catch-up after Secret Wars. This phase began to realize that the Terrigen Mist of the Inhumans, though this storyline released in 2013, they were very, 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 very terrible story arcs. And X-Men getting pushed to the limit on the corner that the fact that Inhumans took over the whole entire series. And Charles Soule was also the one that was involved with that one. So there you go. A real douchebag. His name is Charles Soule. He's so terrible that he was the reason why the 2010s X-Men stories sucked as bad as they did, because hence, he doesn't work at Marvel anymore because his stories just straight sucketh. So again, let this be a universal reminder that sometimes when you have a vision and it doesn't fall through, then you're just setting yourself up to failures and a trap that, quite honestly, hey, at least you did something, and though it didn't really have the best impact on the X-Men and their fan bases, it still justified the fact that at least you still got your fucking work out there despite the fact people didn't like it. So let that be a universal reminder to you guys that sometimes when you have a vision and it doesn't fall through the cracks, well, don't be crying to me when you want your books back because, again, it's justified. So until next time, we'll see you on the hut. Until we see you again, we will see you on the next episode of the hut.